Regarding revisions, I worked to find a more appropriate scale for some of the images and video clips in my e-poem. However, I had to record the screen for it to upload properly, so I'm pretty annoyed by some of the images and their scale being ruined in this step because it looks like I made it even smaller during my revision. I must admit that I found myself getting frustrated more with Camtasia now because every little change would mess up the entire thing, it seemed like. I tried to eliminate some of the overlay of images in accordance with Professor Anderson's response to my original work. I like the idea of just a plain ballroom scene this time around, as compared to the ballroom overlaid with images of alcohol, because I felt it actually better conveyed how I imagined the sense of confusion and the boy's difficulty to, quote-unquote, waltz. I chose to only include black and white images in my e-poems because I felt it best captured the somber tone I believe my Papa's Waltz had. I imagined that the poem took place in kind of a desolate area where it was winter when I was reading the poem, since there is no warmth and it feels very detached. This is kind of how I imagined the season of winter would be represented if I had to put images to it. I chose to include images of an older family because I felt, and yes, this is very superficial, that in the past people didn't smile as much in family portraits and they weren't as much of a status thing as they are now, so it almost captured the sense of desolation even within a family unit. I chose the ballroom that had the checkers because it gave me a little bit of a headache to look at and made me feel how the little boy must feel while dealing with his father's alcoholism. I initially included images of alcohol in this scene, but after revising it, I felt as though that was superficial and that it was just unnecessary. The overlay of images in the kitchen was supposed to represent chaos and like things were falling apart, and I decided to keep this because I couldn't find an image I felt better suited it. To be honest, the barbed wire was just something I put thought into, but I didn't really have a good sound reason for why. I felt like it fit how rigid and strong things should be, like the mother in the poem, but ultimately it snaps just as she does. I don't really know, the idea just connected with me, and I'm not sure my articulation for that makes too much sense, to be honest. The next few scenes are all just, quite simply, superficial and a literal representation of what happened in the poem. One of the things I found interesting about the belt clip scene was the little subtle clipping noise. Someone accidentally made noise while I was recording the GIF, and it actually sounded like a belt clip, so that was pretty nifty. For the GIFs of the tornado that progressively get darker, it made me think of how the father's shadow probably looms over the boy and just continually gets darker, just as his mood does. This is also present in the lines where the father is waltzing his son off to bed. That little bird video reminds me of, again, a continual attempt to grasp onto something. The ending video with light has always resonated with me from when I once saw it to now. Like the light, or hope, it has left the little boy's life. Creating citations for this video was extremely challenging because I found I used plenty of sources that I believed were critical, but there were entirely too many things to list citations from. Some of the ones I found most critical were the following. I used video from the Ellipse album track Canvas, which was shot by Tom Kelly in 2009, and was primarily shot in Newfoundland, Canada. This image of the waltz scene was an image captured by Tom Sternberger, an artist in Minnesota, in 2014, which I felt, like I said earlier, captures the little boy's struggles. The tornado GIF doesn't really have an author. It was anonymous and on Tumblr. However, I manipulated the image to make it lighter and darker to further progress my idea presented through the e-poem. The bird sequence is from the Ellipse soundtrack also, but it's from the album Little Bird, which was also shot by Tom Kelly in 2009. This image is interestingly enough from a man named Dana Lyons Tumblr, who used the wire to represent a concept in economics and about the equity market, not at all, probably, what Theodore Roethke, the author of My Papa's Waltz, would have imagined. It is unclear to me when the image was shot, but he talks a lot about the years between 2009 and 2012 in his post that summarizes what the image represents to him, so I would assume that he shot the image sometime around then. Here are the remaining citations that I did not include in any of my explanations.